Okay, awesome. And we do have, especially for you guys that are new, we got Thursday, 9 o'clock on Zoom. We have Armless coming in to teach you guys how to use the maps and searching. So definitely tune into that. It's going to be that there. It's not me teaching it. It's an actual someone from Armless teaching it. And so they're always, those gals are always very just a wealth of knowledge and do a great job. So and nice and convenient to be on Zoom for you. So definitely 9 o'clock. Heather, I know you're having some challenges finding that stuff. So before we finish, I'll put the company Facebook page in the chat so that you can just go there. And if you like the page, anytime that we add new events, you'll get reminded. Okay.
Okay. Do you guys add them like the morning of?
No, the calendar's booked out for the whole month.
Okay.
Yeah, you should see everything in there for August that's there. Yeah, and if you like the calendar, if you like the page, then you'll get notification. And I think I did because you friended me on Facebook, right? Pretty sure I sent you an invitation last week too. So through Facebook. But yeah, and then there's also the Google page that you guys can go to. That's Join AZ Professional or join what is it? Join Remax Professionals AZ.com. That's our Facebook page or our company page that also has a calendar that you can subscribe to, and that's on Google. And if you hit that, then they'll populate everything that we put in there right into your calendar. So which makes it nice and convenient. But all right, well, let's jump in. So last week we talked about creating a 33 touch program that keeps you top of mind with your people, right? Identifying your people. I got a gal I coach in Texas, and she sent me an email the other day, and she said, I've only gotten 2 referrals and out of 75 transactions. How do I change that? And this is someone I've been coaching for over a year. And, I said, well, we got to go back to your top 50, right? And all of you guys, if you've met with me or had a conversation with me, we talk a lot about the top 50, right? It's not 25, it's not 75, it's 50, right? 50 people who know you, like you, and trust you and would do business with you if you ask them. And so my comment back to her was that, well, we have to do a better job of staying top of mind, but also asking, right? A lot of our family thinks, their friends and family think that Remax pays your bills, right? Remax pays your car payment, but they don't realize that you actually pay to be at Remax, right? And so, so we got to ask, right? I had a good friend of mine that we were good friends for many years. And I said, how come you've never referred me any business? And she said, well, you're always so busy and you're always complaining about how busy you are and how stressed out you are. So why would I send you more of that, right? So we got to be careful the messaging that we're putting out to our peeps, right? And then I'm not somebody who likes to go around asking for business, but there are subtle ways that we can do that, stay top of mind. Last week, we shared the script of that the average person will know 12 people who will make a move in the next 12 months, right? The average person will know 5, I'm sorry, I screwed that all up. The average person will know 5 people who will make a move in the next 12 months. Sandra, I'd love to be top of mind when you hear about those folks, right? Here's a few of my business cards. That's a nice, subtle way of asking, right? And your people who are competitive that aren't average, they're going to be on the lookout, Bob, to get you more business than 5 referrals, right? And so the goal with top 50 is to get 1 referral from each person in your top 50. And Jan, is that enough business for you if you got 50 referrals? And even if only half of them turned out, you would be head and shoulders above the national average of which is 10 transactions per year for the national agent, right? Now, that's not us at Remax. At Remax, then the average sides is, James, help me out, it's like 16 something, 17 sides is what the national average is for Remax agents.
16.1. Here we're 18.6.
Yeah, exactly. So we're definitely not hitting the national averages, right? Because our agents, you're here taking this class, and that's why our agents are head and shoulders above the competition. So, but again, with top 50, and I'm going to get into materials when we're talking about farming today, but with top 50, the goal is to get face-to-face, right? It's not about sending emails, which emails are fine, that's a touch, but it's about getting face-to-face and having meaningful conversations with people, and not necessarily about real estate, right? You could, call someone and take them to lunch, right? Have a conversation, take them a cup of coffee, find out what's going on in their lives. I talked to one of our agents last week, and I didn't know because she's not on social media, but her dad passed away. And, that was something that, wanted to have a conversation with her about that, right? And so pay attention to those details, right? And make it the goal to get face-to-face with people. If there's anything that you could take from this class today is make it a goal to set an appointment every day. Right? Don't stop until you do, right? Just continue calling and making those appointments. Again, the goal with top 50 is to get face-to-face. Sorry, I got Mitch is out doing stuff in the yard today and she's losing her mind. So my little town crier. So, all right, you guys all, I think, Brian, I don't think I have an email for you. So if you want to put that in the chat and I'll send you the materials, you guys all should have that in your inbox, but let me go ahead and do a share screen here. Right. Okay. Let me move this out of the way. Okay. So last week we talked about the touch, right? And then I showed you at the very end, I showed you the 8 and 8 campaign. And so for those of you who were not here last week, the 8 and 8 campaign is exactly that. It's a postcard every week for 8 weeks that you would send to a specific area. And today we're going to winnow down, what does a farm area look like? What should we have in that farm area as far as, homes and all that, right? We're gonna give you this exact. This is how you set up a farm. But at the end of the class last week, we talked about this 8 and 8 campaign. It was designed by a company called Hobbs and Herder. Some of you may have heard of them. They're based out of California, and they came up with this very specific languaging on a postcard that they sent out every week for 8 weeks. And at the end of the, and here's the key to it, is it was a fake person. So it was somebody that didn't exist, and clearly no one had done business with this person, obviously, right? But at the end of the 8 weeks, they surveyed this specific group of people that had been receiving these postcards every week for 8 weeks. And the majority of those people said that they would hire that fake realtor. And so the languaging is very specific, and you guys have access to that through Max Center. So the postcards are in Max Center, and Orlando, our fabulous OD, has also set them to be able to print and have a little bit more customized feel to the front of the postcard. But the objective is not to change the verbiage, right? Hobbs and Herder is a multi-million-dollar marketing company. They know more than the average Joe, right? So we don't want to change the content. We want to just send the messaging out. Now with the 8 and 8. You got to make sure you budget, because it's a big, it's a big investment, right? But the goal is that at the end of the 8 weeks that you could really kickstart your farm area. Typically, when you start a farm area, it takes 6 months to really get saturated and just have any kind of traction. Some people will tell you 2 years, right? Budget for 2 years that you'll get nothing, Heather, in return for 2 years, right? Now, I think that's a little conservative. Most people that I coach and have helped create farms, it's that 6 to 8 month window is when you start to see some stuff, right? But with the 8 and 8, you need to budget, how much it's going to cost you to do the whole project for 8 weeks, because it's not going to do you any good to send 3 weeks out and go, crap, I'm out of money, right? And so we want to make sure that you budget that. Barry Etter is a guy within our orbit, if you will. He has a print company. I don't know the new name of it because he changed companies, but anyway, he's our go-to guy. He does a fantastic job, and he's really affordable as far as costs are concerned. If you have a favorite title company that you would, might want to talk to about that, that's also an option to help kind of cut some of those costs. Okay. So again, Orlando has them also inside of the Max Center. So that would be something you would use in addition to what we're talking about today.
What was the name of that company again?
Barry Etter, is that the printer?
That's the one that does the postcards?
Yeah.
How do you spell his last name?
It is Etter. And if you look in the newsletter that we send out every month, his contact information is inside the newsletter. Okay. He's local. He's a great guy. Nate and I have been working with Barry for years. So he's a really good guy. For those of you, so a couple of you, I will get you the materials when we're done. I'll get those emailed to you. So, okay. So today what we want to do is we want to teach you 4 intentional and proven approaches to creating additional relationships. And that's what a farm does, right? And for all of you, I think I would be putting yourselves on a search in your own neighborhoods, right? For any new listings that are coming up and also any canceled or expireds. There's a lot of canceled and expireds that are on the horizon, right? And they're happening. And that's an opportunity. We talk a lot about the opportunities that are being presented with the change in the market. That's one of them, right? Is to go after those canceled and expired. So I have a for sale by owner across the street that just went up over the weekend while I was gone. So guess who's going to be going and making a phone call to that for sale by owner? So this girl right here, right? Because that's an opportunity to talk to her about, what are you doing? There's hardly any traffic on the street. You're not going to sell for sale by owner, right? So looking at those opportunities. So if you look at expired and cancels, and we do have that expired boot camp coming up. I don't remember which Tuesday it is, but it is this month. So expireds are not for everybody, but again, if they're in your neighborhood, why not at least have some conversations with people that have failed to sell that still have a desire to sell. So we're going to create our farm, right? This is creating new relationships, focusing on buyers and sellers. And then what do we need to have? We got to have our marketing stuff, right? Ads, just listed, just sold postcards. So one of the things we talk about in momentum is the financial consequences. So when we think about someone who is a prospector who's patient and systematic, right? That's the thing with farmers. You got to be patient. You got to be willing to invest the money and the effort into it to make it happen. Now, if you were to talk to Nate, he would tell you, he farms in Blackstone, he farms in Arrowhead, he does thousands of homes, right? So but I don't want you guys to think about that, right? I want you to think about small. So the concept here is we're going to start with 250 doors. That's it, right? 250 doors. And as you can see the slide here, it progresses. So as the years go on that you're farming in that area, you're going to increase, right? You're going to increase it, assuming that there's that many homes in the neighborhood that you're farming, right? So you're going to increase that each year and putting the money that you earn from it, investing it back in there to grow the farm. But for today, we're just going to focus on the 250, right? So that's 250 prospects, 3,000 mailers, because you're going to do once a month. And at 50 cents a piece, this should include postage, right? And printing, that's a $1,500 investment. And if we only converted 1%, right? Because you're thinking about, I don't know about you guys, but when I get the mail, most of it goes right in the trash can before I even go in the house, right? And so that's the same thing with our farming and our postcards. It's a very passive but effective way, and you're only looking for those people that in that moment they see your mailing, Heather, and they go, oh yeah, I was thinking about selling, or I've been getting this consistently, and now it's time to move, and we're going to call Heather because she seems to be the person that is always in our face and knows the community, right? So 1%, and then that's going to result in 3 transactions. And this is funny, average sales price of 150. Let's do the math on what the average sales price is here in Phoenix, which is what you say, James, like 460 is where we're at right now. So we'll go 460 at 2.75. So apples, that's a $12,650 commission. And if we did that times 3, that's 40 grand basically. And I think, when we talk about return on investment, anytime you spend money, you want to have a 3 to 4 times the investment. So $1,500 would be what? 15 times 3, $4,500. So I think, we're doing really good with a $40,000 GCI coming in, right? On a return on investment. Nate had shared that he sent out a postcard in Arrowhead. And I think he said he did it to 5,000 homes. So it was like $2,500 that it cost him to do, but it resulted in 2 listing appointments. And both of those were $500,000 homes. And so, yeah, it seems like it's a lot, right? To spend $2,500, but when it results in 2 listing appointments, it really pays for itself, right? So 1%, 3 transactions. And this isn't, taking into consideration that you have a sign in a yard, but we always talk about 1.5 buy sites coming from that sign, right? From that listing, and then 6 to 8 leads coming in. That's not taking into consideration on this slide, all that additional opportunity that's there for business to come in. This is just based on you getting 3 listings out of your farm area, right? So there's a lot of other potential and other money-making opportunities that are there, right? And so then we have, we talked about the GCI, and then you want to reinvest 25% of that into growing the farm. So our farm plan, so the nodes you have, so we got to have a prospect, right? So we got to have an area, your geographic area that you're going to want to farm. And again, 250 doors, we're going to start small. And so what is that smart farm system? So we got to know the turnover rate. And how do I figure that out? So you're going to go into the MLS and you're going to figure out the subdivision you want to do. And you want to pull up how many homes have sold, right? How many homes are there and how many homes have sold in the last 6 months to 12 months, right? It will not do you any good to farm a neighborhood where people move in and live there till they die. Right. So and I always say, I want to pick neighborhoods that have a high turnover, like a first time home neighborhood, right? Because those turn and burn, and those are the averages. And if even at 460 is an average, first time home, that's still a good price point, right? And that's the other thing too, is I want to pick something that does have that turn and burn, because that's where I make money, right? Because the more listings I get, right, the more money I can make. Now, Nate farms Blackstone, and what is the average sales price in Blackstone? Probably 900,000. So, it's a little bit different demographic over there. But he's also shared that those properties aren't selling right now because the market has shifted. So that's why I personally am going to want something that no matter what's happening, that those properties are turning quicker than other products, right? So we got to have our dialogue, right? What are we going to say? And then you have your move up dialogue. We talked about the 8 and 8. So then we're going to have your neighborhood update cards, and then your websites and tracking. So we're going to dive into all of that. Okay, so here's an example. This is kind of dated, but and I'm sure the balloon's been updated, but this was an example of what the front of the 8 and 8 card looked like through Max Center. And then here is the back of it of how it looked. So, and again, we don't want you editing that. I need to update my slides because that's the old Remax stuff, but the old logo. But yeah, and again, Orlando, like I said, I would probably just go to Orlando so you could have a little bit more customized to you, the look of it, because this is a little bit, to me, a little bit dated. So, so yeah, and like I said, he's got them all laid out. So our smart farm. So why are we going to mail? So why do we want to mail? So we have our lead generation system. Let me get my notes out here. So the why, right? So we need to figure out like what is it that we're sending? Why are we sending it? Okay. And then what are we sending? So we want to make sure if it's the 8 and 8. So if you did this and you had the 8 and 8, right? So the first 8 weeks, you would send that out and then you would drop back and just do monthly updates, right? And the monthly update of what's happening in the community. And you're going to get a sample of that in the material. So following up with that. And then when you get a listing, right now we're going to send out a just listed postcard. Maybe we're going to door knock. Maybe we're going to do an open house. Now that property sells. Now we're going to send an additional postcard, right? Maybe we door knock again and say, hey, Bob, we sold this house for X, right? Your new neighbors are so-and-so, right? And so we're going to have these additional opportunities to get in front of people inside of that farm. And I also like to think about what's happening in that community. Is there a school? Is there a community event center? Is there, something happening in that area that I can now take a physical presence in that community? One of our agents, he's since retired, but for years, his son played basketball. And so for years at the school where the high school that his son played at, he would sponsor the school, sponsor the basketball team. And he would go to the games and the announcers would always say, hey, they're in the house, right? And they'd stand up and wave. And so he got a lot of business from that. And he maintained that even after his son was out of high school. And so thinking about those things of how you can take a physical presence in the neighborhood. If it's a farm area and it happens to be yard sales, right? Why not be the agent who goes around with fresh donuts or cold water at a yard sale, right? And go talk to people, because when someone's having a yard sale, what's a pretty good indicator they might be moving, right? And maybe they don't have a realtor and you show up in that farm area, they've been getting your stuff and now you bring them a fresh donut as they're sitting out there selling their things for a quarter, might be an opportunity to have some additional conversations. So where to mail? So how do we choose our neighborhood? So in the materials on page 6, this is the meat of the class here, is we want to have a potential turnover of a minimum of 5%. Some people say 7. Okay, so between 5 and 7, that's the total of the homes out of 12 months that have sold, right? And then we want to look and see, is it conducive to the average sales price that you desire? So, because we're not going to necessarily, of course, there's not really anything cheap in Arizona anymore. So I've got some clients who have $100,000 listings. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. You still buy real estate for $100,000, right? You got to shovel snow for 6 months out of the year, but they do have $100,000 listings. And then number 3 is we want to make sure it's not dominated by another agent. So how do I figure that out? So when you look at the listings, when you pull up the sales, you're going to skim through who was the listing agent, right? And if they have more than, I would say, 3, and depending on what your turnover rate is, 3 to 4 in that range, they're probably farming that area. And it's going to be obvious when you skim through and you're going to see one name that keeps popping up. You're going to notice that that's that person. Okay. So you want those are the 3 things. So turnover rate 5 to 7, not being marketed by another agent, and then it's conducive to your average sales price. And then how do we mail? So again, if you want to start with the 8 and 8s, and then follow up again with the monthly postcards, and then reinvesting so that we continue to grow the farm, the number of doors, and then when. So obviously the 8 and 8s every week for 8 weeks, and then having that monthly touch, right? The monthly updates. And I'm going to show you a very simple, basic example. There is a company called REM that Nate actually uses for his Blackstone. They're a REMAX approved supplier. They're not cheap. Okay. So the product is not cheap. So if you're going to do that, you're going to have to invest in it. And there's an upfront setup fee and all of that, but the product is very professional and they do it for you. You just got to
use it.
Say that again, Jen.
Vern and I use it.
Okay. All right. So did you guys just get started?
Yes. We've only had 2 go out so far. I mean, obviously I haven't gotten anything from that yet, but
Right.
Cost a fortune, but it looks fantastic. And according to Nate, it works. So we're just going on faith that sometime over the next couple years, I'm going to get that money back.
There you go.
Can we describe what a fortune is?
Say what?
Can we describe what a fortune is?
It's like 1,500 setup.
Probably. And I want to say, I'm not sure because I don't know, Vern set it up with them, but I think it's like maybe $700 or $800 a month. something like that. But if we did one sale this year, we would get that back. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. And I think because Vern was already established as different for us, than it would be just if I was just coming in on my own, I wouldn't even be thinking about doing something like that.
Yeah, so I think James, I want to say it's like 15 or 1800 setup. That gets you all going, but that also includes a website that they set up for you. And then it's $1.89 a piece, but they do have a minimum door requirement. I think it's 500 doors that you have to do. So, and they will not, the cool thing about REM is they will not market to an area that they already have an account established with. So if you pick an area, that's now your area. And if some other agent calls them up and says, hey, I want to farm this area, they will not do it. So they're very exclusive and protect you in that regard. So not for everyone, but they do, it is an option if at some point you get to that, where you can afford to do that and it's in your budget. But in the meantime, I mean, you could do the 8 and 8 and then just do the postcards, right? There's Core Fact is a great company that does postcard mailing for you that you can just set it and forget it if you want to. Cool thing about Core Fact is that they get a code. And so if the person goes online and uses the code, you get triggered. So right away that someone actually picked up your postcard and looked at it. So that's another option to look at for postcards. And of course, talk to Barry too and see what he would do. You would just have to provide him the print stuff to have sent out. But, that's something Orlando can help you with as well. So neighborhood postcards. So here's again, very basic information, right? Subdivision name, the activity for August, how many sold, how many are available, average sales price, average list price. And you guys, it's important that you know that you can't advertise active listings unless you get written permission from the listing agent, but you can put 3-bedroom, 2,000 square feet listed for X. You can put that on there. You just cannot put the address. Okay. Same thing with pendings. Sold are public information, so that's fine. You gotta just be careful that you're not saying that you're the number one. All those things. Just making sure that your data is accurate, because your competitors will turn you in if it's not accurate. Okay. And always, 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 before you do anything, send it to Shannon to get reviewed to make sure that you are in compliance, because that will suck if you go and spend a boatload of money on something and you're not in compliance. Okay. So make sure you're sending that to the broker. All right, so quarterly. So here's an example of quarterly postcards. And so what does that look like? Again, you're getting the listings. We have the monthly, now we have the quarterly. And so I love the verbiage here is that why list with Susie Realtor? Well, the results speak for themselves. And we talk about the fact that sellers want to work with agents who demonstrate results, right? And what is that? Selling my home and not always for the highest price, but the best terms, right? What works for them, what's important to them. And so this example is touting the fact that her listings sell better, right, than the average. Okay. And so, and again, we demonstrate that we're different, we're unique. And when you have your house on the market, if the average is really 142 days and Susie can do it in 63, that's significant, right? That's significant. And I know when people say, well, I'm not in a hurry, as soon as that sign goes in the yard, they're in a freaking hurry, right? As soon as they have to make beds every day and keep the sink clean, they're in a hurry, right? And as soon as their animals start getting stressed or their kids start getting stressed, they're in a hurry. It's not, I don't love these companies that, offer iBuyer programs, but you have to really pay attention to the messaging that they're sending out, as that it's a pain in the butt to sell your house, right? And so how do we come along and make it less of a pain? Okay. And so just, I won't read the whole postcard, but this is basically, the meat of that. And the seven-step pricing strategy. If you take that class with me, it's actually a trademarked thing, the 7-step. So it's a TM. If you take that class with me, that now gives you the authority to use that in your marketing, right? To say, I use a 7-step proven strategy, TM, right? TM makes you look good, right? Because everybody said, ooh, that's official. It's got a TM next to it. So I think, did I just have that class or is it coming up? I can't remember, but anyway, it will be on the roster at some point this year. So again, sellers want to work with agents who get results. And so right now, with the market shifting, things sitting on the market a little longer, it's really a good opportunity for us to demonstrate why we're different, right? Why should you hire me and the results that I can get for you? Okay. I'm not going to read through the dialogue here because obviously we're not going to role play, but inside the materials, there are dialogues for you. So the quarterly call, right? And then you have the monthly move up call, which is, talking about interest rates, which this may be a little bit dated just with, or not relevant in what's happening today. However, I could spin this that since interest rates are at a low, let me get to the next slide, at a low, which now could I spin this, Jan, and say, well, rates did go up, but they went back down last week. How many of you guys knew that? Right? They went back down. And so, and then we also have, I mean, I was looking at new builds. I have a listing coming up in Surprise, and I was looking at new builds, and almost every new build that is in that area on their website saying that they're guaranteeing a rate, right? To ask us about our 2-1 buy down, right? And so when we hear people say that, we have to come up with clever ways to be louder than the sensational headlines. And so I'm involved in a think tank for workmen on a new product that they're putting together. And the whole crux of the goal with this product is that we can either be influenced by what's happening in the market, or we can influence what is happening in the market. Right? So it's a little bit different, right? Are we going to sit back and go wait and see? Which, by the way, wait and see is the kiss of death. Right? When wait and see means that you're going to get passed by, the train's going to pass you by, right? Instead, you want to jump on that train and look for all of the amazing things that are happening out there. So, so could you say, someone says, well, I'd like to buy, but I'm afraid of the interest rates. I've heard they're terrible. Well, let me talk to you about my, interest, or the, what was it they said in the thing the other day? They have some really clever ways of saying stuff. So, but anyway, find something different, right? How do I spin that to say, well, hey, well, if I could get you in, with a better interest rate, would you still be interested? Right? So finding ways to do that. Again, so script here, so you guys can read through those. And then let's see our next thing. So neighborhood website. So if you did hire REM, this is something they would take care of for you, but you also, we'll have to see with KV Core, with the new product coming out, how that's going to look for our websites. I like the idea of this, of just doing it on Facebook. So Bob, go buy the URL, right, for the neighborhood. You can point it to your Facebook page, make a Facebook page, and now I can push all that content out onto Facebook, and I don't have any cost of building a website, right? A nice picture on the banner that people know. I did some Facebook management years ago for people, and it was really cool when people would check in to the neighborhoods. It wasn't cool that animals got lost, but it was cool in the fact that they would push that out to the page and say, hey, lost dog. And then all of the activity that would happen around that, right? And all the people rallying to help find the dog. And who was the center of that? The realtor who was managing the page, right? And so that's a great way to not have the cost of building a website. And in the interim of, do I build my bouge, or do I wait for KV Core? So the Facebook page, and I feel like we get a little bit more interaction on Facebook than just a website. Okay, so we could still do all of the ideas that are here as far as pushing that content out. So talking about interest rates, I heard that KCM. Do you guys, any of you guys follow Keeping Matters Current? If you don't, I would highly encourage you to. If you could subscribe to get an account, and then you get customized content that you could push out, but you can also just grab the consumer facing content as well. So I heard that Monday they put out a really great video. I got to go watch it, about what's happening with interest rates in the market. So what I love about KCM is they dumb it down. Right? They take really complicated statistics and they dumb it down in a way that we can understand it, and then regurgitate it to our clients, right? So things like that, any kind of taxing information, which, by the way, one of the things in this think tank I'm in is insurance has come up as a topic. So someone, Bob, that might've been in their home for the last 10 years, property values have shot up, replacement values have shot up. So are they properly insured? If their home were to burn down and they had insurance that was relevant from 10 years ago with proper replacement values, they're going to be in a lot of trouble today. So that's a great touch, Jan, to call people and say, hey, I was listening to a webinar the other day, and topic of insurance came up, right? And so now we're creating value, right, to provide to that person to say, hey, I better call my insurance agent. And if you have a good insurance agent that you can refer to them that would help save them money, that's even better. So again, all these things on here, vendors, in Stetson Valley, there's a guy that lives there that's the snake guy, right? So if you get a snake in your yard, everybody's got him on speed dial. So they all know this guy, right? So people like that, not that I want to have, I hate snakes, not that I want to have a snake guy on speed dial, but if you live in that neighborhood and you're in the wash areas, you need him on speed dial. So, but I love the idea of not just vendors, but also people that live in the community. Can we highlight their businesses? Is there a dog walker? Is there a pet sitter? Is there a kid sitter, right? That's in the neighborhood that we could, people could hire. So thinking about how can you support that community? Obviously, any testimonials, positives about you, your listings that are coming up, any free lists, recipes, inspirational stories, and then neighborhood activity. So if there's things happening in the community, I think back to school, right? Back to school days, when school ending, breaks, teacher breaks. My stepson was notorious for coming home on a Friday and saying, I'm on spring break next week. And you're like, wow, okay, how do we plan for this, right? So pushing that information out to help parents know what those days are. All right, so an effective marketer. So, if you were to talk to Nate and ask him if he prospects, he would tell you no. But what he will tell you is that every single day he's marketing. Every single day, something is happening in his orbit to let people know that he's in real estate, right? And so I'm not saying don't go prospect, because I always smack his hand when he says that in a class, but he makes a point that every day something's going out to let people know he's in business. And so if we look at, and I would say most of you are in kind of a phase one here, is that if we had 20 listings for the year, and we got 10 calls per listing, that'd be 200 additional conversations that you could have. And if we only converted 15% of that, that would be an additional 30 appointments. And if only half of those showed up, that'd be 15 new conversations, or I'm sorry, meetings. And then if we had a 45% conversion rate, which is that's pretty conservative. I would say it's probably more like a 65% conversion rate for when you're, if you know what you're saying, right? If you're polished and have a good presentation, that would result in 7 additional listings. So what would I say, about 12,650 was our average commission? 12,650 times 7, this is almost $90,000. It's not a bad day, right? On having those, being able to market and being able to convert. Let's see if I got any other notes on here. Okay. So successful people possess goals, plans, and strategies. They have a GPS, right? So we got to have our neighborhood. If you have your signs up, right? And then I don't like the word label the caller, but identifying where the caller is in their process of looking for a home. And of course, different dialogues that are in the materials, you're grading, your labeling, and then your justification, and of course, tracking. We talk a lot about tracking in momentum. Everything you do, if there's something in your business that you do more than 3 times, needs a system. And we need to track everything. We need to track how much money we're spending, where our time is being spent, all of those things. Because again, return on investment, we want 3 to 4 times the return on investment. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so if we're spending money on something and it's generating no return, we need to evaluate that, right? And change it, because it doesn't make sense to keep doing something over and over again and make no money. Okay, so another thing in momentum that I love, and if you guys could see my notes, they're all highlighted and checked up here. So the core values of an entrepreneur. So I'm not going to read all of these to you guys, but I would love for you to just definitely take the time and I'll make sure I get through materials, but go through these and you're going to see them sprinkled up throughout all of the momentum classes. And the reason that they are is because it's so important that you get these beliefs drilled into you, right? One of my favorites, number 2, is something I say every day, is I live in a world of abundance, right? And that core value is super important, because if you sit in open house and no one shows up, it's kind of deflating, but you could say to yourself, Bob, that's all right, because I live in a world of abundance, right? And so when we have these core values, these are the things that will set your foundation, right? So that you can grow and you can, focus on the right activities that generate business. Okay. The next set is the real estate sales beliefs. And again, I love number 4 is that I will not convert 100% of the leads I do not generate. If you take enough classes with me, you're going to hear me say is that you should not get out of bed, Sandra, and not know who needs your services today. Right. And we talk a lot about seed leads and filling our pipeline down the road. Those are the leads that we know when I get out of bed today, I got business coming in. Right. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at these beliefs, right, and that they're ingrained in your DNA. And then the last one is the buyer beliefs. And so I think number 2, motivated, qualified, loyal buyers, the ones that buy homes. And then my little caveat on number 4 is number 5 is the A buyers deserve my immediate time and attention. Yes. However, I have been Pop-Tart realtor before. Phone rings, right? Sign call comes in. You go show the property, and maybe they're not quite ready today. But you build a relationship, you solidify that relationship, and then eventually they become business. A gal named Lisa was one of those particular leads. I was actually on my way. My nephew was being induced, so I was on my way to the hospital for his birth, and sign call comes in. Well, all right, I'm early. I got time. I'll go show this house. It's on the way. I ended up selling her. Last time I counted was like 6 properties, all from one sign call. And so, she wasn't ready at that time, right? But I built the relationship and kept in touch with her. And like I said, I mean, I've done multiple transactions with her, and she is someone I would consider a top 50. So sometimes A buyers or C buyers need some attention just to solidify that relationship. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that you go running around with a C buyer that's not ready for 6 months or won't provide you proof of funds just because you have nothing to do. That's also a waste of time. Okay. I'd rather you not do that and focus on real, true money-making activities. So if I were you guys, I would take this page and I would print it out and have it laminated and have it wherever you sit and prospect, and every day review those core values. I actually used to have my affirmations hanging in the shower, and I would read them every single morning, right? And then they moved to the mirror. So having that there, right? That's that growth mindset. If you have these at your prospecting area and you look at them constantly, as a reminder, it's powerful stuff, right? Because what we put up here in our mindset is, I would say 90% of the battle, right? If we have the right mindset, we're unstoppable. Okay, so don't be typical. So again, if you guys, there's a lot of scripts in here that I don't have time to read through with you. But page 14, I hear this all the time when I'm in the office, is that, yeah, that house is under contract, right? Thanks for calling. Have a good day. Well, that was a lead, right? Instead, stop. And we want to qualify them, right? And the script here gives you an example of how to go deeper with it. So when we answer questions, you want to answer it with an open-ended way that solicits more information. Right. And so we can constantly keep winnowing down until we get the information that we need, and we can convert the call into an appointment. Okay. And so we want to answer all their questions, right? We don't want to be that guy who, comes across as the snake oil guy. Identify exactly where they are in the process. And then we want to close with the follow-up or an appointment. Okay. The next script is keeping them engaged, right? You guys ever watch cop shows? And what do they always do, right? Like, remember the old Columbo, like they do the phone thing where they had to keep them on the line for a certain period of time so they could trace the call, right? Think how far we've come these days, right? With that technology. And so the same kind of idea here is we want to keep them on the phone as long as we can so that we can build rapport and then convert them into an appointment. Okay. And so then the one thing I do want to get to though in here is the script right here and this is on page 6. No, sorry. Where are you? Where is it at on the materials? Page 16. Where are you at?
It's on 17.
Thank you. 17. Okay. Thank you, Bob. I don't know what's going on today. So on page 17, so this script that I think is probably the second nugget, if you could take out of this class that just get this drilled into your head, is how would you like to use a proactive process that ensures you get the home you want and want the home you get? And think about that for a second. I had a buyer last summer that I wrote 7 offers for. By the time we were finally done, they were so emotionally spent that they almost didn't care. They almost didn't care. I just want a house, right? Just get me into something. And so the script, we say that, how would you like proactive means to produce action? How would you like a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want and want the home you get? And so when someone says, hey, I'm looking on Zillow, or I'm using Redfin, or I'm just driving around going to open houses, then this is your opportunity to say, hey, I can help you with a different approach, right? And so if that's the second nugget in this class that you guys, I think, you take away from here today is internalize that script, right? Make it a part of your DNA. So the justification, we've programmed people in our world, and I'm sure you guys have said it yourselves. Can't you just email me? Right? That's the rejection free zone. Just email me. And so we have to, change that dialogue, right? And get out of that space of the convenience of just sending an email. Okay. So again, I'm not going to read through all of the scripts in here, but please take the time to after and go through those. So this slide here, so this is more of an aggressive approach, which some of you may resonate with, some of you might not. This is on page 18. So you would kind of stack these, right? And so I think that they're, depending on the client, they could be offensive and rub people the wrong way, right? Because what's important, an informed, intelligent decision. Well, are you implying that I'm being dumb? For some people, this might be a fine script. A high D personality, that'd be a fine script. A high S, you're going to offend the crap out of them. Okay, so just be careful with these when you're reading through them. If they, how do they resonate with you, and what's your delivery of them, right? Because there's a nice way to say pound sand, right? So making sure that you are, it's appropriate for you and appropriate for the setting and the client that you're working with. Oh, let's see. hold on. All right. So the rest of the scripts that you have in here, starting on page 19. So you have the lookers working with another agent. Okay. So going and understanding that a lot of people, that's what they do. They say they go to an open house, they say, I have a realtor, but do they really have a realtor? I was on a call yesterday with someone and they had done an open house, and they said when they came through the open house, they had a realtor, and then they came back the following week and said, we do have a realtor, but they're not doing a great job, and can we hire you? All right. So that type of stuff happens, right? And it's okay to have someone say, I'm working with an agent, but just maintain that professionalism and still try to provide value so that if anything happens with that existing relationship, you're the one they think of. Okay. So the next script is that I'm not in the market, right? I'm just out kicking tires, and you're going to encounter that, right? You do enough open houses, you're going to encounter the nosy neighbors. And that's okay, right? Ask to put them into your database. Stay in contact with them. You never know if they might refer you, or they might in the future have a need to sell as well. Okay, so filling your pipeline and filling your database with contacts. The next script is just looking. So I'm just looking. Well, then the script says that we'd be ready in 2 to 12 months. And so then the next question is, what's important about waiting that time? And here's the thing, you guys, is that that's an important question to ask, because some people are misinformed, right? There's a lot of misinformation, especially with the internet these days going around, right? I have a great story about a rental lead that came through, and we asked the question, well, why are you renting? And they said, well, we own a house in California and we were told we couldn't qualify for 2 mortgages. Is that true? No, it's not true at all. I have 2 mortgages right now. If you rent it and the rent pays for the mortgage, you can qualify, right? So they had gotten bad intel from someone, and they had been renting in Phoenix for years because they got bad information. And so we were able to stop them in that conversation just by asking what's important about waiving that, right? Or this was a rental, asking the question, why don't you own? And we were able to change that. And I believe that they did end up buying a house, not that particular time, but about a year later. So it's important that when people have bad information, we got to make sure we educate them. Okay. All right. So let's see the next thing here on our materials. So the no do have of property calls. So we get a call that comes in, right? Again, we got to have the dialogues and having the tracking of that. So you want to track how many calls you get in, and if you're running ads, you got to track that stuff too. What's been the results of that? Facebook, you can check all that stuff, right? You can look at what your ad results are doing. We have the megaphone that you guys can, use as well. And then also it's been coming up this week in conversation about the MLS when you have a listing. And you can do the reports, right, to see how many times the home has been sent out in a portal, and you can see how many times it's been saved and favorited, and you can also see how many times it's been rejected. And that to me is the most important piece of information that you can give a seller, right? Because the looker is rejecting. They're not even going to see the house. They're rejecting it online, right? And that's an important piece of information right there to be sharing with your sellers. That's important to share the hearts too, but I think the rejection is the one we really want to focus on, because why are they rejecting the home? Is it price? Is it condition? Is it location, right? So that's an important piece there. All right, so vague ads. So your vague ads are the ones that are going to get more, right? So we've all seen the sensationalized headlines, right? They catch our attention. So vague is better. Here's some samples in here that you can run these on. Of course, it could be newspaper, which how many people actually read the newspaper anymore? Online, social media, Craigslist. Craigslist is a real powerful spot. I know a lot of us think of Craigslist as kind of being scammy, and certainly there are scams that happen out there, but it's also a great place to put leads out to advertise your listings, but also advertise for additional sellers, right? And then of course we got to follow broker rules. These samples do not include any of the disclosures that you need to have on there. And the fact that you need to say that you're a realtor. Okay. So I probably wouldn't be doing fixers or uppers right now personally. And of course we don't have any homes under 150,000 here in Phoenix. So you want to adjust that, right? And make it appropriate for what's happening in the current climate. So it's sample tracking stuff. Okay, these are really basic things, right? Just that you could take this document on page 24 and turn it into a spreadsheet if you wanted to, but you're basically tracking how many calls did you get? How many appointments did you set? Did that result in a meeting? And did it result in a buyer or a seller? Okay, so tracking all of that stuff. We want to know what our conversion rates are. We want to know if we're getting the leads coming in that we should be getting at, right? So pretty basic stuff there. We don't want to overcomplicate our tracking. And then the last thing of the financial security or consequences of a proactive marketer. So again, taking the example of 20 listings, if we had 275 touches, or I'm sorry, 275 touches total for the year would be 5,500. If we had 25% conversion rate, right, or set rate, that would be an additional 14 appointments, and then coming down to get an additional 3 listings. Okay, so if you took all of the financial consequences, so we started with 3, then we started with 7, or had 7, then we had 3. So what is that? 13 additional transactions just from doing the right activities, right? Having the right conversations, having the right marketing going out. Okay, and I think, I said at the beginning of the class, the average realtor sells 10 houses. So just right there, we're already beating the average. Okay, so just sold campaign, same thing here. So we have our just listed, just solds that also generate additional opportunities to get listings. So you guys can see that I'm doing those just solds, additional 3 transactions. And I think, I might have skipped the list. No. Was it this? Oh yeah, this was the just listed campaign. Okay, so then just sold. So that's an additional 6 transactions just from those additional postcards going out. Okay, so page 27. So this talks about, again, having the dialogues, right? And having your homes for sale, your just listed, just sold postcards, and then a neighborhood list. If you're going to call, which the materials give you a resource called RedX. RedX is a company that provides you with lists of people's names and phone numbers, and depending on which package you buy, you can even get email addresses. They do scrub them for the do not calls. They're fairly affordable, but don't go buy RedX and spend the money on it if you are not comfortable doing cold calling, because that's basically what you're doing. Okay, so maybe start out with door knocking, get comfortable with those dialogues, right, before you add that in. So because it's very robust and it's a whole different bag, you guys, of cold calling, and you get a whole lot of people that tell you to pound sands because realtors suck, how'd you get my number, all of that. So it's not for everyone, and I also don't ever want to advocate for you guys to go spend money on something that you're not going to use. Okay, but here's the door knock script. And then same script here, if you're making phone calls, it's the exact same script. And then the key thing here in this script is that as an added service, right? An extra service. That's the key piece in there that gets people's attention. That's like you're doing something different, right? The last realtor I worked with didn't have that extra service, right? So that's a key part of that script. And then so continuing on with your dialogues here. So you got the door knock, you got the phone call, and then get going here. The oh, by the way, right? So this is the lead generation phrase. So oh, by the way. So oh, by the way, I listed this home for $350. Really? I didn't know homes were getting that much, right? And so then we slip into that. Yeah, they are. And so what if I could get you that type of value for your home? Hopefully they say $350. Wow, good. So I've heard some people say they door knock and the sellers go, or the door knocker goes, what? Why are you listing at that price? That's too cheap, right? So hopefully that's not the conversation you have with people. So these are, we talk about door knocking, this material says 50, I say 10, 10, 20, right? 10 houses on either side, 20 across the street. If you want to be a rock star and do 50, go for it. But that 10, 10, 20 makes it easy and some, easy in our minds to think about doing that. And that's a 40 additional conversations that you could potentially have with people. And if you show up, Jan, just, coming soon, open house, I sold it, it's under contract, then it's closed, right? If you show up that many times, and the statistic is true that when a home goes up for sale, within 30 days, an additional home will go up for sale in the same area of the same street. And then within 60 to 90 days, 2 to 3 more homes may go for sale. And I actually witnessed that in my neighborhood in Surprise. One house went up and actually 6 properties turned over because 2 rentals happened. So there were 4 sales and 2 rentals, and that was all in this short window of time. Actually, that all happened from the time we started thinking about moving. So like December, January timeframe until we moved. So it was like a 4-month window. And so I witnessed that, seeing that happen. So if you show up and someone has an inkling of selling in that window of time and you keep showing up, do you think you're going to get at least an opportunity to have a conversation with them? I'd like to think so, right? I'd like to think so. And then the last thing in the materials are tracking, so additional tracking. So Peter Drucker says that what gets measured gets done, right? So if you've ever been on a diet, what's the one thing they tell you to do? Track your food, right? Track your activity, track how much water you're drinking. So kind of the same thing here is you want to track everything that we're doing. And I would challenge you guys to just for the next week, track exactly what you're doing all throughout the day. You know, how many hours you're prospecting? How long did it take you to drive to the office? Like, where are you really spending your time? Because I think it will be an eye-opening experience for you to see. One is, where am I getting squirrel syndrome, where I'm going down a rabbit hole that I shouldn't and spending time on activities that I shouldn't be spending time on, right? And then also I find that a lot of people don't realize how much time it actually does take to do something. And so I would really challenge you guys to look at that and say, okay, where am I spending my time for the next week? Okay. Any questions, comments? So James, let's see, Facebook is, okay. Thank you for answering that. I gotta grab a couple emails. Any comments, you guys? Who's going to start a farm? You guys are all being quiet today.
I've been working on it, so this is really helpful.
Good. Where are you going to set your farm up?
Up here in Sun City Festival.
Okay. Where you live at? Okay, cool. Yeah. And you got to be careful because there's a lot of realtors in that neighborhood too. So Bob, just make sure you're scrubbing that and, you know, going and picking the parcels that maybe aren't, you know, being marketed by other agents, because there's a lot of agents that live in Sun City Festival.
Oh yeah, Home Smart's pretty big here.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Be bigger, right? Use the brands, you know, use the power of
I
the
was
brand.
gonna say that's the advantage we have as Remax agents, is the power of the brand.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you think about what are some of the ads, don't worry, we've done this a million times, you know, that we outproduce 2 to 1, you know, all those statistics that use that stuff to your guys' is your advantage. Just even using the balloon. You know, I know some of you probably heard the story, but we were in Winco Foods off 303 and the Bell Road. This was during the lockdown. And I had my Remax shirt on and Mitch was making fun of me. Like, where are you wearing that? And so anyway, the girl that checked us out, she was a high level. I think she was maybe Down syndrome, but she's high level functioning. And she pointed at my shirt and she goes, "Oh, you're in real estate." She's like, "I have an apartment." And she went on to tell me all about her life and how, you know, she's all of the stuff around her home. Right. And all because she recognized the stupid balloon on my shirt. Right. I didn't engage that conversation. She engaged me. So make sure that you're using that. And Kyle had told me he took his son to the park and a 4-year-old recognized the balloon and said, "Hey, you work for Remax." So a 4-year-old. So I'm like, "Hey, let's get that kid a license." He's a realtor in training, right? So pretty cool stories that we hear about using that brand. So, all right. If you guys, any questions, comments, anything before we wrap up? All right, very good. Well, if you have additional things that you want to talk about on farm, you know, call me, text me, email me, and we can sit down and help you out with that. If you're unclear where to get started with neighborhoods, that kind of thing, you know, let us know. We'll help you research it. Okay. All right, very good. Well, you guys have a great day. Thursday, don't forget. And if you plan on going to the concert on Friday night, you haven't bought your tickets, please do. We still got tickets available. We've got 40 amazing auction items that have just been generously donated, from destination to Mexico to baskets to diamond rings. I mean, we got all kinds of cool stuff. So James, yeah, James is showing you a little preview there of all the stuff that's been coming into the office. So we've got a ton of cool things, and of course, all of it's going to PCH. So you guys have a great day. I will see you next Tuesday, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sarah.
All right. Bye-bye.